16.
Hours booked, because The View is live. Trump's rallying cry. The president amps up his attack on freshman congresswomen that's been condemned as wild. Plus, is this the latest Republican challenging Trump in 2020? Former South Carolina Governor and Congressman Mark Sanford is live on The View to reveal if he's entering the presidential race and if he worries his headline-making cheating scandal will come back to haunt him. And all week long, it's our Hot Summer Cash Sweepstakes. Audience members and someone watching at home right now are getting a piece of our $30,000 giveaway. Will you be one of them? The House of Hot Topics is in session with Whoopi, Abby Huntsman, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, and Meghan McCain. Now, let's get things started.
And I just, when I think about that, I think he's supposed to be the moral leader of this country.
Well, come on.
He's supposed to be. He's supposed to be someone that you look up to, that children look up to.
Yes,
and you have a child in that crowd being egged on to say, send her back.
You know, we have to be careful holding up our leaders to these standards which we ourselves cannot fit. You know, they're real people. This one is, I don't know what to say about this one.
Look, it was really dystopian.
Yeah,
it's not, I was trying to go out to dinner and ignore politics. My family's in town. And I came home and saw it on Twitter and then saw it on TV. And look, everyone at this table, and I think people that watch the show or have ever seen the dumpster fire that was my interview on Seth Meyers, knows that I've been one of Ilhan Omar's most vocal critics on her policy regarding Israel, regarding some of her comments that I and many others interpreted as anti-Semitic. But the problem right now is you're taking away my agency to criticize her policy because you're making this so much about race, xenophobia, racism. I think anytime you're hitting in a territory where you're telling any American citizen who is of a different color than you are to send them back, I, too, didn't think this was something that I would see in my country, especially when we're going into 2020. And let me tell you, Republicans right now, we may be in power and have popularity and Trump's numbers may be real high, but let me tell you, it's my generation that's going to answer for this. Try selling conservatism to a younger generation when all they see is this kind of crap on TV. And the Trump administration, all of you, Ivanka, Jared, because you're around my age range, where are you in this? Because if my parents were doing this, let me tell you. And I don't understand where his safeguards, which is apparently his family.
It is required by Republicans to speak now. It's almost like
it is.
I don't know what else to say.
They're allegedly
for 2 years, we've been railing against this guy, and you know, and the Republican Party just falls in line behind him. They don't say anything. Lindsey Graham apologizes for him. McConnell, who has a wife who was an immigrant, apologizes.
Past that, we should be worried about violence
but
being
it's
directed.
Well, let's get to that point, because that's really, and that, because that really does involve people, women in particular, who critique this, which is our right. This is one of the great rights of the United States. You can say what you want to say. Okay? He can say what he wants to say. But see, if we say something like that, and it sounds like we're talking about violence, we can get in deep doo-doo.
Yeah, you can't.
He doesn't care or doesn't acknowledge the fact that what he's doing is possibly inviting violence towards these women, and women who are saying, this is wrong, I don't like this.
No question.
This involves every female in this country.
Well, why can't
we
he,
show the
why
TV
can't he
clip?
be brought up on charges of hate speech?
Sorry.
Why can't he be sued by the ACLU for hate speech? I don't get it. How does he get away with this?
Can we just show this clip really quick?
Yeah.
The what?
hate speech is true.
The fact of the knowledge is, and I've done racial justice work in our country for a long time, acknowledge the fact that we are women of color. So when you do single us out, be aware of that and what you're doing, especially because some of us are getting death threats, because some of us are being singled out in many ways because of our backgrounds, because of our experiences and so forth.
And go ahead. She's putting blame with Nancy Pelosi as well, which is why this clip, I thought, when Gayle King was interviewing them, was also interesting, because clearly they're feeling threats from all the way around, but they're blaming Nancy Pelosi for sort of opening the channels for Trump. And I just wish we could all take a collective breath, roll all of this back, and then we can fight about policy on The View all day long.
In my opinion, she needed to give that rap directly to Nancy Pelosi.
Wait a minute.
We don't need to hear that on TV.
Here's what should have happened. None of this should have happened, because everybody should have kept it amongst themselves and argued this personally. But once you put it out there, because, you know, when the youngsters, I said this the other day, when the youngsters come in and say, you know, your generation didn't do anything, get out of the way, old person, it's like, what? Yeah. And then you keep it going, and then it escalates. Everybody has blame in this. The problem we are facing right now is what to do about it. It's not that we know it's happened. Things happen all the time. Go ahead.
I agree that I wish that Nancy Pelosi, as the Speaker of the House, as the leader of the Democrats in the House, and these 4 freshman congresswomen would have sort of aired this out internally. But I think, and I said this on the show when we discussed Nancy Pelosi's sort of singling them out, that you do have to take note that they are women of color. And the door was opened up. But they have to take note
that she's a woman also.
No question.
You know,
and
you
that she's
can't
in
start
leadership.
it.
But you know, I said that. I thought that was going to happen.
What if she's colorblind and doesn't really notice that they're a different color?
She's one of the most progressive politicians
fine if you
in
are
American
colorblind.
history.
It is fine that you are colorblind, but if you are driving down the street, Joy, you've got to be able to see that there's a red light, a yellow light, and a green light. And so the notion that somehow I'm colorblind doesn't really cut it.
Well,
you have to understand that women of color experience things a little bit differently than other people in the United States.
I am one that experiences all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, a little.
And
it's just
the problem for me is I need them to acknowledge that they have a hand in this. They have a hand in this. The squad or quad or whatever they're called.
In terms of not. In terms of not taking it internally.
I think part of my perspective on this is that it's okay to criticize their policy.
Yes.
There's huge ideological differences happening in this country that are savaging both sides.
Yes.
I could not be more politically divergent than the squad in every way. And I think the problem is, even if it's just a criticism of their policy, sometimes it's perceived as racism. I don't believe that's what Nancy Pelosi was doing in any way. And I think the problem is, look what Trump just did. There is a huge difference, and there needs to be more nuance in this kind of conversation.
That's not
my suggestion. Why do you say they have a hand in it? When you come back.
When we come back, I'll explain. Yes. We'll be right back. Sorry.
Later, failing the first responders, how Jon Stewart's leading the charge against the 2 Republican senators blocking the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund. This week, The View's hot topics are setting your summer on fire.
Do that again!
Boom, boom, boom. Plus, our political view is heating up when presidential candidate John Hickenlooper hits the hottest campaign stop in daytime. This week on ABC. Later, former Republican South Carolina Governor and Congressman Mark Sanford is live on The View to reveal if he's going to take on Trump in 2020. And heads up, home viewers, because one of you and an audience member are winning big on our week-long Hot Summer Cash sweepstakes.
Oh, welcome back. So apparently I need to clear this up. What I was saying when I was talking about the congresswomen need to see how what they said incited somebody to say something else that incited them to say something else. So when they're talking about people like Nancy Pelosi or Feinstein, you know, do remember that they were 2 women amongst all these men fighting for our rights. So when you get elected, you can't come in and say, well, you know, none of you people did anything, because you're standing on the shoulders of all these people who work their tails off in service to this country. And so when you lob something out like that, like saying you're too old to do that, you know, those are fighting words. So everybody, when I say everybody's complicit in the back and forth, if you stop doing that and just get to work, it would be great. That's what I'm saying.
And I want to clear up my point in terms of, you know, I've met Nancy Pelosi so many times, and I'm a huge admirer of her leadership. I don't think she's racist.
No.
My point is that when you do lob it back to 4 freshman congresswomen who are women of color, you must acknowledge the fact that they are seen as women of color and their experience is going to be different. And that is why I think when Donald Trump first tweeted out about these women, he said, Nancy Pelosi, I'm sure, will buy your ticket out of here. So he connected the two.
Yes.
And she, I don't think, was cognizant of that nuance.
I would like to say something quick. I would just like to say that.
Wait, that's what I said.
I'm very distressed at what's going on in the country. I'm very frightened for us.
Yes.
I've read too many World War II, I've seen too many World War II documentaries to not be frightened. I see what's happening, and I really am begging Nancy and these congresswomen and all the Democrats to please come together and just keep your eye on the prize, which is to get this man out. I'm really begging you to do it.
And my understanding is that they are meeting.
Can I make a request too?
Sure.
Can we give the benefit of the doubt that not all Republicans are like the group of people in that room in North Carolina last night? Really, because again, I'm surrounded by conservatives, and I know. I had actually a friend of mine who works in conservative media called me yesterday, and we were both just like, our jobs, man. Like, we have to go on TV and talk about what people perceive as us representing this.
Well, what were they doing
there?
What were they doing there?
I don't know anyone that was at that specific rally, although my friend Clay Aiken, who lives in North Carolina, was very upset that it happened in his home state when he was there. But I will just say that this is not the conservatism I was raised in. It's not the Republican Party I now recognize in this sort of sense. I still believe America is a shining beacon on a hill, as Ronald Reagan said. And the idea that Republicans everywhere are going to be associated with this. There are those of us that are speaking out, and there are also those of us, Joy, who are terrified also at this kind of language.
I want to see Mitch McConnell stop.
I would too.
I want to see him start speaking against Trump. It's got to happen. Come on.
Well, we've seen the outcome of what happens when you don't stand up to it. Well, you know, and I wanted to read something because I thought it was interesting. So, Gayle King was interviewing the women, and Ms. Omar said she didn't regret the words, but she's grateful for the opportunity to really learn how my words made people feel.
Yes.
And I thought that was a good thing.
That was who?
Congresswoman
Omar.
Omar.
You know, and I thought that was a good thing because our words do matter. Yeah. Words do affect people. And so if you are not sure, you know, talk to friends and say, should I really say this, or learn from this?
Yes. When I said this, and then I won't say it again.
Yeah. So people will learn, and you know, we all step in it from time to time. Please, I'm knee deep. But you know, because you're talking sometimes, and you say it, and once it's out of your mouth, it's out there.
Happens to us
all the time. Well, I didn't want to point fingers, you know.
And that's true.
Good point, right. Right here.
It's all of us, but you know, I think really everybody's doing the best they can.
We're still talking though.
Yes.
Nobody's scared off yet.
No,
which that's a lot because I know a lot of people that are scared to still talk right now.
Well, you know what? Don't be scared. It's your country. Take it back.
That's
we'll be right back.
Thing that could happen.
And
so welcome back. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul is one of the 2 Republican senators, along with Utah's Mike Lee, who blocked a vote on the 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund. And Jon Stewart went on Fox News last night to call out their hypocrisy. Take a look.
It's absolutely outrageous, and you'll pardon me if I'm not impressed in any way by Rand Paul's fiscal responsibility virtue signaling. Rand Paul presented tissue paper avoidance of the $1.5 trillion tax cut that added hundreds of billions of dollars to our deficit. And now he stands up at the last minute after 15 years of blood, sweat, and tears from the 9/11 community to say that it's all over now. Now we're going to balance the budget on the backs of the 9/11 first responder community.
And just to say, Mike Lee also voted for the tax cut, too.
Yeah.
So how can...
It's why people hate libertarians. Is an example of this, honestly, because they get so out in front of their skis and so ideologically pure that they don't see the forest for the trees. Give 9/11 responders whatever the hell they want, please, on any level. Over our 4th of July break, the fireman Luis Alvarez died.
Yes, he did.
And if you see the picture of him when he looked like on 9/11 and then testifying, he's only 53, and he died right soon after giving this testimony, I believe 2 weeks after. And he was with his son giving an interview on Fox News, and he said, my son is not going to have a father, and he deserves better than this, as do the rest of the 9/11 responders. It is un-American. It is unpatriotic. Rand Paul, I've never liked you, but this is a disgrace on every level.
Well, I never liked him either.
I never liked him.
No, he's a hypocrite. But, you know, it's funny. A lot of these people think that the attack on the World Trade Center was an attack on New York. There's some idea
That's ridiculous.
that, you know,
but you know what I mean.
I mean, it's an attack on the United States. If the World Trade Center happened to be in Kentucky, it still would have been an attack on the United States.
Right, of course.
But they have this idea it's some kind of New York thing that happened, I have a feeling. And the other thing is, you know, first they give tax breaks to all these multimillionaires, and then they have a deficit, a huge deficit, which goes against the Republican Party.
Keeps borrowing money.
Yes, they keep borrowing, but then be aware that pretty soon they'll start to say, well, we've got to cut back on what they call entitlements.
Well, that's
Social Security.
That's why Rand Paul said he wasn't voting for this.
Yeah, because that is the trick that they pull.
Can we just point out, maybe it wasn't on 9/11, but who do you think came to save you when that man was shooting at you? That was a responder.
Yeah.
That's who comes and does all of this. What the hell, man? What are you doing?
I mean, I saw Luis Alvarez was NYPD.
NYPD.
What was so despicable is that he voted for that massive tax cut for the wealthy.
Right.
And all of a sudden he's saying we don't have enough money.
Yeah,
well,
that's what
if you
he's saying.
look at it, the deficit because of that tax cut ballooned from $225 billion to $319
and it's going to go up another $1 trillion.
And I would also like to point out that 911 funding bill was co-sponsored by Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, by the way, the woman that allegedly hates America.
Thank you.
And can we always remind people, New Yorkers died on 9/11, and people from all over our country died. Not all white, not all you or all the people that folks are talking about. You know, the people who ran some of the shops in the World Trade Center were some of the really finest people. You saw them every day. They'd be there. And their families have been devastated also. This is not a color issue. This is not a color issue. It's not a religious issue. This is an issue that we have to take care of. And the people who take care of us, we've got to take care of them. There's no way around it. We've got to do it. We'll be back.
Is former Republican South Carolina Governor and Congressman Mark Sanford about to announce he's running for president? Is it revenge for Trump campaigning to get him out of office? And how will he handle attacks about his high-profile affair? He's live on The View. Next.
So Mark Sanford locked horns with the guy in the White House back when he was a Republican congressman, and lately he sounds like he might be getting ready to run against him maybe in the 2020 presidential election. So here to tell us what's going on with him and maybe make an announcement, who can say? Please welcome live from South Carolina, former governor and congressman Mark Sanford. Hey. So what is this all about? Because you recently announced that you're considering challenging the guy. And what are you waiting for? Are you in or are you out?
I'm neither. What I've said is I'll give it 30 days and see whether, energy and people and resources come my direction as I explore this over the next 30 days or not. And if they don't, no, I'll look for other ways of highlighting what I think is the most critical issue out there that's not being talked about, which is debt, deficit, government spendings for its implications in every one of our lives.
Okay. So, Joy Behar here, sir, if you do jump into this race, you know that Trump is going to be relentless in his attacks against you and your extramarital affair. We all know about that. Not that he's one to talk, but how do you plan to handle that?
As best I can. I mean, it's a chapter of life that I regret, that I've said I'm sorry for, that I repent of and I move on. But what happens in life is every one of us has a chapter or something in our life that we regret and we wish we could have done differently. And yet what opponents at times will say, well, you know what, we're going to keep you in that box for the rest of your life, and you can never speak out on things that you might hold dear or things that might matter to you. And so I'll take it as it comes. If I indeed get into this race, I know it's a point of vulnerability, but it's also, frankly, a point of strength. Because if you learn from your mistakes, you become a better person for them. And it allows you to, frankly, have a level of humility and a level of, frankly, respect for others, maybe that you didn't have before, a level of empathy, because at the end of the day, we're all broken vessels. There is weakness in every one of us, and frankly, our connection as human beings is in our weakness.
But all due respect, sir, you're going to have to go down to the mud with this guy. Are you ready to do that? I mean, he plays really dirty.
Well, that's his world. That's not my world.
But you'll be in the debate with him.
I'm trying to raise in any way I can what I think is a hurricane off the coast of our waters coming our way that would have profound impacts in our savings accounts, in our retirement accounts, in our ability to get a job, based on a debt storm that I think is coming.
Hello, Congressman. This is Meghan McCain. Nice to see you again. Republicans in Congress see you as a cautionary tale. You were one of the few sitting members who were critical of Trump, and then he attacked you on Twitter, and he ended up endorsing your opponent, and then you lost your re-election bid. So clearly, Republicans are afraid that if they break ranks with the president, they are going to end up losing like you did. So how are you going to garner support after that lesson?
I'll never garner support from institutional establishment in Washington, D.C., but when I talk to friends here at home, when I talk to folks with a small business or a soccer mom trying to get her kids to and from practice or whatever the combination might be, what they tell me is, there is something wrong with the fact that you could have two Democratic presidential debates and not one sentence on debt, deficit, or government spending and a looming financial storm by either the moderators or the candidates. And concurrently, on the Republican side, the president has ruled out action on the very things that drive our debt and deficits, and again, the things that would lead to this financial storm. So I think my conversation would be with regular folks across this country who have hopes and fears for their children in terms of what comes next, and who have hopes and fears for what, the financial environment might look like for them.
Can I follow up something?
Sure.
It seems to me that your whole thing is based on a collapse of the economy. Because right now the economy's doing well and everybody's right behind him on that. They don't care about any immorality at the moment. They only care about their pocketbooks. So unless we have a totally collapsed economy, you're not going to have a shot. Am I right?
Well, the prettiest days on the coast of South Carolina are just a couple days before the hurricane comes. And yet the weather folks and all the emergency management folks will be saying, look, you need to find a way to leave the beach and head inland. And as governor, for a couple terms of my life, I was a part of those calls saying, you got to leave, the storm is coming. And so I would absolutely agree with you that it seems like it's a sunny day. But in the same way that you could have a family that stacked up all kinds of credit card debt, and it seemed that their financial position was strong, that is exactly what's going on in this country right now. We've never had the level of deficits that we do right now in peacetime. We've never had the level of debt that we do now in peacetime. Think about this for 1 second. interest, just the expense on our interest, is the largest growing category of our federal government. And interest, we will spend more on interest next year than we do on children in America, on all federal programs, education, welfare, aid to families. We will spend more on interest than we do on national defense in just 3 years. I mean, I could come up with a lot of statistics that say there's a storm brewing. I don't know exactly when it comes, but it's coming, and it'll be just like the folks who were on the beach being warned, get off the beach, who maybe or maybe don't take heed.
Okay.
Governor, this is Sunny Hostin. While the president continues to double down on his attacks that the 4 freshman congresswomen of color should go back to where they came from. And last night we heard his rally goers chanting, "Send her back." Do you believe the president's comments were racist?
Well, to me, if it, quacks like a duck and it swims like a duck and it flies like a duck, it's a duck.
Thank you.
Should we take that as a yes?
Yeah. So to me, that's what it sounds like to me. But here's the more important point that we're missing in all this. One, it is at odds with what the good book says and what every major faith says about this notion of loving your neighbor. And loving your neighbor doesn't mean liking them. It means putting up with them and staying on the same street and having the conversation whether you like it or not. It's at odds with the institution that our founding fathers set up, wherein we could sit in the same room. I mean, Whoopi and I may have divergent views on all kinds of different things, wildly divergent views, but you know what it means to be American? It means we stay in the same room and nobody goes home. She doesn't go home, I don't go home, because that's the institutional framework that our founding fathers set up, wherein we could stay and have that debate.
But Governor...
And thirdly, what's so wrong about this, and I just got to get this off my chest, 2 seconds, is we continue to play the Trump game by getting in this spin cycle. It's as real as any washing machine across America, in that he throws out something derogatory, crazy, absurd, and then people in the media react to it, and his opponents react to it, and then his proponents say, no, he didn't mean that, what he meant was, and it's the same music over and over and over again, and we'll have this same conversation 2 weeks from now on some other subject, and we won't be talking about the way in which the debt deficit and government spending can, in fact,
why isn't your party calling
futures.
him out? Why isn't your party calling his comments racist?
Right. That was the question.
Wait, this is the same party that tweeted against me when I said, look, I'm just going to look at how I explore either a presidential run or other avenues toward raising the debt deficit government spending issue. They tweeted against me. I mean, the party does weird things encircling the wagon around whoever is in power, and that is particularly the case given the cult of personality that you see with Trump.
Well, then why don't you just run as an independent so that you can screw him up? Why run as a Republican? Like that guy Amash,
because
she's doing that.
Republican. And there have been great Republicans over the ages, whether that is Senator McCain, whose daughter is sitting with you right now, or other folks who look to say, I believe strongly in conservative ideals and limited government. But I think that, I'm going to sit there and listen to somebody else's perspective because I don't have the hubris that says I know everything about all things.
Okay, here's what I know. We want to thank you for talking to us. I'm just going to suggest you do it in 15 days, not 30, because who knows where we're going to be in 30 days. I'm just saying. So, Mark Sanford.
Fair enough.
But can I say one thing to you? When you come back, I'd like to hear some more solutions from you, Sarah. That's all. Go ahead, Whoopi.
I was always a fan. I was always a fan of your politics, whatever that's worth.
Let's stay for the next half hour, and I'll do that.
I'd be interested to see you run.
Right. So, everybody wants you to come back and hang at the table with us. We will be right back.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper's the latest presidential candidate live on The View. He's answering critics calling for him to step aside and revealing his plan to step up his standing in the polls.
Welcome back. Since college tuition is skyrocketing, a lot of parents set aside money for their children, but a high school kid who decided to skip college and pursue a career as an electrician. Good move, kid. Made his case on Reddit thread to still keep the 60 grand his folks set aside for college. Now, the folks are saying, I don't know if I'm giving you that money. And he's saying, but I'm working. I have to pay for school. You know, would you split it in half? What would you do?
Well, first of all, let me just say that if you were in that blackout last week, you know we need electricians.
Yes.
Number one. Number two, this is his particular dream, okay? He doesn't want to go to a traditional college. He wants to go. You have to learn to be an electrician, I would presume.
Yes,
but
you have
right?
to, there are schools.
Yes.
But he's not going to go to school. He's going to be an apprentice under a friend.
Okay,
it's the
but
same
that's,
thing.
in a way, it's
Yeah.
equivalent to going to college.
Yeah.
And the world needs more of these people who know how to fix things, for goodness sakes. We have enough liberal arts graduates, enough already. So I think he's right.
Yeah.
I think he's right.
Well, I agreed at first because I thought he was going to go to the technical school to learn how to be an electrician, because I just paid an electrician a lot of money, and I'm so happy I did because I have air conditioning right now. But I learned that it's an apprenticeship, which he will be paid for. So he doesn't need the money to go to a technical school, and he has 2 siblings that are going to college, and if the siblings get the money, then they will leave college debt-free. So
but that's
I'm
their
thinking
problem.
the money should go to the siblings.
That is their problem.
Why?
No, because the college fund was a joint fund for all the kids.
I thought it was specifically earmarked for each child.
It was a college fund for all the children. So
but maybe he wants to buy a house. Why can't he use the money for something else? I mean, his life also. They should. That's their problem.
What do you think, Mace?
What do you think?
I'm with you, Joy. I mean, I think that anyone who finds their passion in whatever form, it should be applauded. And if your parents put that money aside, what if he wants to start his own electrician business?
Yes.
What if he wants to? I mean, you know, he can use that money for many different things. I also think the idea of liberal arts degrees and Ivy League colleges, and we've seen everything with the celebrity scandals of paying to get their kids into college. I think the whole lens in which we view college, I'm glad it's changing, because I do think that college, if A plus B doesn't necessarily equal C anymore. And I think the idea that people are going to be strapped with hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loan, if not more, as they enter into adulthood, I think the paradigm is shifting. And I applaud this kid. Good for you for knowing what you want so young and going out and getting it.
I do like the idea of putting the money towards his own business.
Well, but
that I would be in favor of.
But here's the thing. If you want your child to learn, one of the things they should learn is how to do things, because those things don't exist in our world anymore. We'll be right back.
True.
They don't exist. I used to be able to...
One of you watching at home right now and an audience member are about to get a piece of our week-long giveaway of $30,000. The View's Hot Summer Cash Sweepstakes is picking winners right after this.